Sandra Froome is restocking the grocery supply before the place opens. Someone has left the refrigerator with the ingredients open for the whole night, so she has to quickly come up with a solution. The driver who brings in the goods is irritated and reprimands the woman for the missing goods and hiding the fact from the restaurant's upper management. It is your job to manage the ship, to keep it together. How do you deal with your kids? The employees arrive for work. Among them is a young girl, Rebecca, and a boy, Kevin, who tease each other in a friendly way. The supervisor scolds her subordinates for the oversight and demands that they ration every piece of bacon and pickle. Friday is a day with many visitors, and an inspector could come by at any moment. The whole situation is very stressful. Becky worries that she is the one who is suspected of making the mistake and will now be fired from the job. She tells Marty, the shift manager, about this when Sandra joins in. The girls talk about the boys together, and Sandra confesses that she's about to be proposed to by her lover Van. Rebecca, on the other hand, has a new admirer whom she likes. Does he send you pictures of his other stuff? I mean, he hasn't yet, but I think if I were to do that, he'd totally do it. The restaurant manager has a word with an old handyman named Harold, then informs Marty that she still hasn't reported to management. Her fiancé, Van, calls her and says he's going out for a beer with his friends tonight. Employee Connie loudly complains about her irregular work schedule, and Becky adds that the long shifts wear her out too much. Sandra hears the young people talking and demands to get back to work. Suddenly, a phone rings in the manager's office. It's the police. The man on the line says he has a tip from Sandra's boss, Mr. Gilmore. It turns out that one of her employees, a girl working at the cash register, had stolen money from a customer's bag, and from the description of her appearance, Sandra recognizes her, about 19 years old. Blonde. Becky. The police officer adds that these are not all of the girl's violations, and she is being followed as part of a larger investigation. That's just what she needs right now. The bacon supply is almost gone, and there's this. Sandra asks Marty to cover for the cashier. She takes Rebecca aside and asks about the theft, to which the employee says she knows nothing. Sandra hands the phone to Officer Daniels. The policeman explains to a shocked Becca that the victim is with him now. She placed the order less than an hour ago and filed a theft report already. The girl is seriously frightened. In the meantime, the officer asks to search her pockets and confiscate her phone. The next thing to do is check her purse, which is located in the employee cubicle area. Becca comes to her senses a bit and tries to defend herself in response to the threats of being fired. She has an alibi. She was at the cash register the whole time, and the only bad thing she could have done was giving incorrect change. And why do I have a police officer calling me, describing you exactly, telling me your name, and saying that you stole from a customer? The officer asks Sandra not to let the girl out of the room anymore, and to wait for the police to arrive. He says that he takes full responsibility for the manager's actions, and that her supervisor, Mr. Gilmore, has been on the other line the whole time and is cooperating with the investigation. Yes, I do, and I'll do everything, that you need. Now the officer asks to put Rebecca on the line and starts interrogating her, accusing her of lying and improper attitude towards the investigation. I'm gonna need you to address me as sir or officer. Understand? The man on the line says that the girl must obey him and Sandra. The first thing to do is to find the stolen money. He doesn't want to make a fuss and take the suspect to the station, because the protocol obliges him to put her in a cell overnight. The investigation can drag on, and a conviction is issued 90% of the time, so it's quicker and easier to do the strip search on the spot. The officer repeats that he takes full responsibility for the woman's actions, and Sandra will help both Rebecca and him if she follows his instructions. Becca refuses to be strip searched, but Sandra joins in and makes Rebecca say that she agrees to have her boss do the search herself. The girl responds by asking for another person, Marty, to be present. Officer Daniels doesn't want outsiders involved, but agrees to it eventually. When Rebecca is left alone, Daniels asks her to make it easier for Sandra, because the whole thing is stressful for the woman too. I need to be a good actress for her. If you could pretend. The man inquires if she or her relatives have been in trouble with the law. Becca assumes he means her brother. When Sandra returns and picks up the phone again, Officer Daniels thanks and praises the woman for her good work. Now, Becca has to take off her clothes, which she does. Sandra examines each item and reports that she has found nothing. The officer says that an experienced police officer would not have stopped there, and she must check her underwear as well, because criminals often hide stolen goods there. He wants you to take off her underwear. No, Sandra's really ridiculous. Written, it's just saying, just Rebecca sighs and undresses. Her resistance now manifests itself only in the fact that she hesitates before complying with orders. The next instruction is to turn around and show that nothing is hidden in her rear. The officer asks her to put all of the girl's clothes, purse, and phone in a bag and take it to Sandra's car, which is parked outside. When Sandra refuses this bizarre request, Daniels informs her that the police are already searching Rebecca's house, from where her brother is distributing illegal substances. They suspect the girl of helping a relative, and there may be traces of those very substances on her clothes, so the items need to be carefully packed and put away. The cop also wants the girl to plead guilty to the theft, so that they can press the drug charges on her as well. The information is classified, so Sandra must not discuss it with anyone, especially Rebecca. Sandra takes the bag outside while the restaurant suffers from a shortage of workers. On her return, the boss finds time to scold Kevin for putting too much mayonnaise on his sandwiches. The officer promptly compliments Sandra on her efficiency. The search of the house is taking more time than expected, so they will have to wait a little longer for the cops to arrive. Sandra has to leave to handle the influx of visitors, so Daniel asks for someone to keep an eye on Rebecca, preferably a man. The manager approaches Kevin and assigns the task to him. The guy sees the girl on just an apron and doesn't like that kind of treatment at all. He asks the girl a lot of questions, trying to protect the reputation of his colleague and her brother. Kevin picks up the phone. The man on the other end of the line, who doesn't look like a cop at all, is sipping coffee while sitting in his house. When the guy questions him about the theft, he answers that Becca discreetly took money out of the wallet on the counter. He asks what the suspect is wearing, orders Kevin to examine the girl again, and to address him as sir. In order to find the money, Kevin will have to carefully examine the girl's body. This is procedure. It's a procedure. Okay, you need to watch your mouth, son. Kevin finds an excuse to leave and runs into Sandra outside the door, who tries to pressure the guy. Becky is my friend. When the cops come, I don't want anything to do with it. The man continues to make himself a sandwich while he is talking to Sandra and calls Kevin an unprofessional and problematic man. The manager agrees with a smile. The officer's subordinates are all terribly busy, and the choice of a new overseer falls on the supervisor's fiancé. Van arrives to help Sandra. He walks into the crowded restaurant hall and heads into the back room with the frightened girl, passing people who are having a carefree Friday night. Van is drunk and has little understanding of what's going on. He stays with Rebecca, thinking he just has to wait. The officer interrogates him and jokes that after the wedding, the man will have to rush off somewhere to help his wife plenty of times. He then asks for help with the investigation. He needs to conduct a search and find the hidden money. Of course, this raises the man's doubts. Heaven, you're a grown man, you think a naked girl doesn't have a place to hide money. He consults Sandra, but she does not listen to her fiancé because she thinks he is too drunk. Daniels, however, for his part, characterizes Van as obedient and amiable. Sandra leaves again, and the officer instructs Van to be as strict as possible with the girl and not give her a choice, as one does with troubled teenagers. The officer intimidates Rebecca by claiming she's obstructing the investigation, which is an aggravating factor. In addition, the search of her home continues, and her brother, along with her, faces imminent arrest, during which her disobedience in a recorded telephone conversation will also be taken into account. The man showers her with accusations and says that she and she alone is causing problems for everyone involved. The resistance of both individuals in the back room is broken, and the girl submits, taking off her apron. The caller asks for a detailed description of whether the girl has scars or tattoos on her body. The search goes on, and the officer, using Van as his eyes on the crime scene, goes as far as he can. At the officer's orders, the girl must take various poses and is even forced to do jumping jacks. Similar procedures are indeed used with smugglers so that nothing can be concealed. When Van hesitates, Daniels uses any information he knows to pressure the man and use him as an executor of his will. What are we doing tonight? Have a few beers? You aren't driving, were you? Meanwhile, behind the wall, work is in full swing. Kevin tries to contact Becca's brother and seek support from his colleagues, but they don't want anything to do with the police. Van continues his detailed examination of Rebecca, which no longer fits the official protocols at all. A tired and irritated Sandra returns to the room, whom Becca immediately begs for help. "Why are you talking to me? Can you see I'm on the phone? Sit down." The manager is overwhelmed with work and demands that the girl shut up. As soon as the manager leaves, a new set of orders comes in. Van must punish Becca for the way she spoke to Sandra. The manipulation becomes increasingly sophisticated and personal. What about me, Rebecca? Do you even understand how hard this is on me? You think I like situations like this? No. Rebecca must agree that she has behaved improperly, accept the punishment, and thank Van for his assistance with the investigation. Sandra returns and brings food to her fiancé and employee. Van sits in complete silence, and the officer informs him that it is time for the man to leave because he has not been able to get the information he needs. Van, in a shocked state, hastily says goodbye and gets in his car. He calls a friend and confesses that he has done something terrible. Rebecca is left alone for a while and discovers that everything that happens to her is caught on surveillance cameras. Sandra meets Harold, the handyman she ran into this morning. She asks for help and hands him the phone, continuing to worry about her fiancé. Harold does not hesitate for a second and refuses to comply with any of the caller's demands. He informs Sandra that the pervert wants him to do all sorts of nasty things to Rebecca. Says for me to take her apron off and look at her. It ain't rape, and it ain't policemancy. Sandra finally contacts her supervisor and discovers that he does not know any Officer Daniels. The caller's authority is completely shattered, an authority that should never have been there in the first place. The manager picks up the phone for the last time. Who are you? Yes, I'll have an original witch, and I'll have one of those frostbinders. The call is cut off while Kevin is trying to identify the caller's number. The real cops get involved. They inquire about Sandra and whether she cares about her employees at all. Becca reveals that she took off her clothes because she thought she would be forced to do it anyway. A search for the phone card from which the manipulator made the calls begins, and it turns out that this is not the first incident of this kind. The suspect, a father with many children, is found in the office where he works in phone sales. Rebecca is persuaded to sue not Sandra specifically, but the entire chain of restaurants, because they were the ones who allowed this to happen in their restaurant. Sandra agrees to an interview with the journalist. She shares that she hasn't spoken to Van since that day, and excuses herself by saying she was only doing what she thought was right at the time. I did what I think, anybody would do. What you would do in that circumstance. She was manipulated, so the woman also considers herself a victim. We were very busy, and when I asked him a question, he always had an answer, and only shakes her head at the facts. Her psyche protects itself with all its might from making disappointing conclusions about herself, even in spite of the video camera footage. That's not how I recall. She agreed to the search. A lawyer behind the scenes intervenes in the conversation and advises Sandra not to answer any more questions. She takes a short pause before calmly talking to the journalist about his hometown. Yeah, I had a cousin who went there, and the humidity I think is very high. As always, look for the movie title in the description of the video. In the meantime, let us know in the comments, whose actions is easiest for you to understand, Sandra's or Rebecca's? And are you sure that you yourself would not give in to skillful manipulation?